Ukrainian troops have made a major push in the southern Zaporizhia region as they try to punch through the heavily defended, heavily mined Russian front line. What we've learned from Russian officials and reports is that the Ukrainian troops used around 100 armored vehicles in this advance, including those German-made Leopard 2 tanks, the American-made Bradley fighting vehicles. This front has been a major priority in this counteroffensive over the last few weeks since it started. We have seen Ukrainian troops prodding along that southern front, trying to get through, and in recent days they have made some modest gains. Elsewhere along the southern front today, we did see video of Russian troops fleeing from the fighting, retreating from the Ukrainian side. And recently we have spent time on that southern front with the 47th Mechanized Brigade. This is one of the Ukrainian brigades that got American training in Germany. They received those Bradley fighting vehicles, and they tell us tonight that they are using that combined arms and maneuver training that they learned from the Americans, that their soldiers are advancing on foot under the cover of Ukrainian artillery. Meanwhile, those Bradley fighting vehicles are taking out Russian infantry positions as well as Russian equipment. But as Ukraine presses forward in the south, we are continuing to see Russia attack all across Ukraine from the sky. Dozens of missiles fired at Ukraine all across the country today. The Ukrainian Air Force says that some 40 Russian missiles were taken down. There were cruise missiles used, those hypersonic Kinzhal missiles. At least 4 of those were fired as well. The Ukrainian Air Force saying that the Russian missiles entered the Ukrainian airspace from the southeast and headed west, constantly changing direction. But as we have seen recently with the wave of strikes in Odessa, even if missiles are taken down, there can be significant damage on the ground, that falling debris hurting or killing people. Alex Marquardt, CNN, Kyiv.
Now to Russia's war on Ukraine, where Kyiv says its forces are advancing in the east but encountering fierce resistance near Bakhmut. This video appears to show Ukrainian forces taking over Russian positions south of the besieged city. CNN unable to independently confirm the details. Ukraine, meanwhile, is denying losses in the northeastern part of the country. CNN's Nick Robertson has been trying to make sense of all the messaging we're getting from both sides and, you know, a vacuum of information in some areas too.
Yeah, a vacuum of information surrounded by propaganda. What we understand that's happening around Bakhmut, we know that since late spring, the Ukrainians have been trying to go around the north and around the south of the city because they don't want to fight their way through the city, and the idea would be that they can surround it. Well, they're not really making particularly fast gains, but because the gains that they do make are really hard fought and have been difficult to hold their positions, it does appear to the south as if they've managed to advance over the past couple of months, maybe a few kilometers. And oftentimes, we were there earlier in the year, one unit will say, well, we took that ground, and then another unit was handed off to them, and then they lost it, and we've had to come back in to take it again. So it's been that kind of offensive. To the north of Bakhmut, the Russians are claiming that they are gaining a little bit of the ground, pushing the Ukrainians back along the side of a reservoir to the north of the city. Again, looking back, comparing that with the lines as they were in late spring, perhaps not moved so much. But this is an area where the Ukrainians think they're making or taking some advantages on the battlefield. The Russians, they say, are reinforcing heavily.